Today, we are going to be learning about allusions in literature. Then I'm going to give you a brief analysis from Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. So, to get us started, we need to know what an allusion is. So, an allusion is when you are referencing something that is really well known, such as another text, an idea, a person. It could be a major symbol, just something that really helps your readers relate to what you are going to be talking about in your text. So, a lot of authors are going to use allusions in their text to help really draw the readers in and keep them engaged. Here's some of the top allusions that you're going to see in literature. So, of course, there are going to be references to major religious text. So, that could be anything from the Bible, the Quran, different text from Buddhism, like the Siddhartha, any of these things that people would typically know or have knowledge of. Another category would be major symbols. So we have symbols for countries, we have symbols for ideas. So, for example, the American flag has the colors red, white, and blue. Those are not just synonymous with America, but when they are put together in this specific format, that is something that most people would know as an American symbol. Another one for America would be the bald eagle. For different religions. For example, in Buddhism, we have the Wheel of Karma, we have the crescent moon and the star. All of these, for different religions, help people relate directly to that text. In Mexican culture, the symbols behind their flag are very important, and they help people who are accustomed to studying Mexican culture, or who might have like Chicano background. They help them relate. The last category is going to be our references to well-known artists, writers, or singers in a work. So, for example, if it happened to be young adult literature, there might be references to pop culture that people might know and relate to help them dig into their text. So, to give you an example of this, if you've ever read the book The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas, the title of her novel, The Hate You Give, actually ties back to Tupac. And there is a quote from the novel where she kind of explains this, but the premise of the book is kind of focusing on racism in America and how the racism that is put on children at very young ages in America kind of changes society as a whole. And it really is kind of an activist book that Angie Thomas has put together. And it shows how society has been changed because of the hatred that has been given to tiny babies. And all of that kind of references back to Tupac and some of his poetry and some of his sayings. Whenever you really analyze the different characters in Angie Thomas's novel, so for example, Star, the main character in the novel, a lot of them kind of go back to Tupac's original book of poetry. The book of poetry kind of leans into the idea of this beautiful rose that grows out of the concrete, and how nobody wanted that rose to grow there. The concrete was supposed to be hard and sturdy and keep everything out, but this rose grew in spite of everyone's wants. And so Angie Thomas really reflects back on this through her allusions in the novel. What is the purpose of us actually having to know what allusions are? Why do we study them? To kind of give you an idea of this, whenever you are reading a book and they reference something that you know, you're able to kind of jump through that door that your writers are putting forth to you, and you're able to really pull yourself into their world. So, allusions are really giving us a starting place as readers to be able to put ourselves into the shoes of the character. So, for example, in The Hate You Give, our main character gives a whole bunch of synopsis about taking care of her shoes and the importance of looking fresh and clean. That is something that a lot of young readers are able to relate to. Allusions also allow us to go more in depth into specific topics. So, for example, Angie Thomas, when she references thug life, you would have to have a direct familiarity with Tupac to be able to understand that allusion. However, if you do understand that allusion, you're able to directly jump into what that character is discussing. The last way that they help us as readers is by developing the setting and really creating a more vivid image of the events that are taking place in our text. So I'm going to give you an example and kind of break this apart for you. And this example comes from the work of Mary Shelley. Cornelius Agrippa, my dear Victor, do not waste your time upon this. It is but sad trash. When our protagonist in this story, Victor Frankenstein, is told by his father that the work that he has just become so involved in, the works of Agrippa, when he is told that they are sad trash, he has the same reaction that many teenagers would have when an adult tells someone not to read or not to study or not to stay up late playing that video game. Typically, the child might act out rebelliously. And so, for Victor being told that this work of literature was trash, instead of his father going through and really explaining it to them, it acts as a catalyst. And a catalyst is something that is going to spark a reaction in something else. So this discussion with his father acts as a catalyst to really propel the rest of the action in our novel. A little bit later, he's going to see lightning strike down a tree. When he sees that lightning, that is another catalyst that is going to spark a reaction and drive our plot forward. So Victor telling him that Agrippa was trash, he could have simply just told him that these works were completely outdated, that modern philosophers and modern scientists, they didn't quite call it science yet, but modern thinkers would have kind of laughed at him for studying that. That could have pushed him away from all of his scientific experimentation, could have pushed him away from wanting to end disease and pestilence. It could have pushed him away from trying to create his creation. If his father had just been straight up with him and told him those are works of the occult and they are not something that most people would believe in. But once again, we have one character and how they are reacting with our protagonist, and it all ends up driving our plot forward. So, by understanding the allusion to Agrippa, it helps the reader really understand how this one text could inspire Victor Frankenstein to make all of the discoveries that he is going to make in the novel. So here is another example from the novel Frankenstein, where you can see an analysis of specific allusions and how they drive the plot forward. So here is our quote. And this quote is going to come from when the creature has finally gotten a chance to voice his feelings towards his creator. Remember that I am thy creature. I ought to be thy Adam, but I am rather the fallen angel whom thou drivest from joy for no misdeed. Everywhere I see bliss, from which I alone am irrevocably excluded. I was benevolent and good. Misery made me a fiend. make me happy, and I shall again be virtuous. So this is a great time for you to kind of pause the video and try to see if you can figure out the different allusions that are being given as an example here. So if you've kind of dug into these allusions, I am going to kind of pull out the first one for you. We have the reference to Adam, where he is talking about the creation story from the book of Genesis in the Bible. And we have the other reference where he is alluding to the fallen angel. So the fallen angel is going to be God's glorious creation that was made to be absolutely perfect. And then God decides to go and create human beings, and he casts out his perfect creation, even though it had done nothing wrong. And so those two allusions really add to our understanding of the plight of the creature. And as you are reading through this, you're going to see that the creature really wants to be treated like Adam. He wants to be given all of those wondrous things. He wants to be given a Garden of Eden. He wants to be given rules. He wants to be given all of the things that children are typically given. However, he feels that he has not been treated like Adam, the original creation story. So if you're digging into this analysis on the allusion, whenever he's referencing Adam and Eve, it is actually going to be going into an archetypal figure. So archetypal figures are going to be typical patterns that we see throughout literature. And with our archetypal figures, we are going to see these people that are repeated in various texts across genres of literature, across time. So, for example, in this text, they're referring back to Genesis. And in Genesis, we have the creator. That is one of our archetypes. And the creator is giving Adam his creation. Food, rules, expectation, specific purpose, and even a companion. By understanding these archetypal patterns, we're able to really dig into the literature and how the plotline will be driven forward. But here are some examples of them. So the creator, that's one of the ones that I just talked about. The sage, that's going to be the wise person who gives lots of feedback and helps to guide the protagonist. In the Frankenstein story, our sage is going to be the professor who gave him a lot of guidance, allowed him to use his laboratory. You will also have a rebel. You'll have a hero. A lot of times, if it is science fiction or fantastical, you might have a wizard. Another regular archetypal pattern is going to be the caregiver. So that character is just seen repeatedly caring for other characters. So in Frankenstein, of course, we have a caregiver character. And if you really read through it, a lot of these patterns are continued. The one thing is that you are left with the question of who is our actual hero? Is your protagonist automatically going to be your flawed hero? And that's going to be a question you're going to have to really delve into as you read the rest of the novel. So Victor, of course, we do know that he is the creator, and he does have his creation as well, and we see how that plotline is developing. Then Victor is having this discussion with his creature, and they're really kind of hashing it out about all of their feelings. The creature is stating that he's being treated like the angel that was cast out of heaven. And because our audience during the time period when Mary Shelley would have written this novel, our audience would have a lot of biblical background. So they would have a lot of knowledge of the Bible. They would have knowledge of the stories in the Bible. So they would immediately be able to understand the emotional plight of the creature. So by the creature being able to articulate complete words, come up with sentences explaining his feelings and emotions, we are seeing that this creature who has been abandoned by his creator just wants the opportunity to feel love. And he even goes on to really push out the fact that he was once good. And because he was cast out, because he was spurned, because society shunned him, he turned into a fiend. And so fiend in this context is going to mean just the worst type of terrible person. And that kind of ties into a universal theme. Most humans want to find connection. And so we're going to see that later on in our story. So by understanding the allusion to Adam and the allusion to the fallen angel, the readers are able to understand that deeper theme. So he is saying, I am able to see all of these people who are feeling love. I'm able to see all of these people who are able to find connections. And I am the only one who is kept out of that. And so that is very similar to the story of the fallen angel who can see how humanity has become God's favorite. When he's saying, I was benevolent and good. I started off as this wonderfully kind thing, but you gave me no direction. And now it is your role as my creator to give me what I am asking. Give me that connection so that I can be good again. And so as we continue our analysis on this allusion, we're going to see a request from the creature. And the creature is going to use his references to Adam and the fallen angel to really drive forth his point that he wants to be given a companion. And even the most miserable creatures on the entire earth are able to find companionship. But once again, we're seeing kind of the darker side of our fallen angel when he says that he's also giving a warning. So he's kind of telling Victor, hey, you've got this ultimatum. Either you can fulfill my request, you can give me a companion that I can spend my life with, and I can leave the world of man, and I can forever live in the ice caps and deserts and away from destruction and no longer causing harm. Or if you do not follow my request and make me a companion, I am going to ruin everything you know, and I will be a scourge on humanity. So I will just take the world and burn it to the ground. And so we're going to see how this request is really going to drive forth our plot. And all of it ties back to our allusions. So, to kind of leave you guys off today, I do have a challenge for you. We have tons of allusions in the novel Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. My challenge for you today is to try to figure out these three that I have posted here. I do have visual clues for you on this page. And if you figure them out, please leave me a comment or let me know in person. So these are my three hidden allusions to see if you have mastered the analysis of allusion. And to recap very quickly for us before I wrap all of this up, allusions and archetypes help us as the reader relate to what we are reading through patterns or our shared knowledge and experiences that we have in common with our writers. Allusions are always going to be specific to the directed audience. So if you are the targeted audience, you should understand those allusions. I would say a lot of times readers nowadays do not understand the allusions in Frankenstein because a lot of them have become outdated and they're no longer relatable to some of our students. And so having them analyze them really keeps that history and context alive. And finally, by understanding allusions and the original works that they're referring to, our readers are able to have a deeper analysis of the universal themes. And that is a huge part of understanding literature. Being able to understand that the author has a theme that they are wanting to teach to the reader, and being able to use those archetypal patterns and allusions to really build upon the motifs that are created and turn them into a clear theme statement. If you do not get the answer to these, you might want to reevaluate and recap. If there's another topic you would like for me to expand upon, please let me know in the comments. I am happy to do anything regarding literature and analyzing literature. Have a great day. Thanks for watching.